Hi, I hope you are well. This podcast is a place for people to share personal and professional perspectives, talk openly, and ask questions. From serious to silly to sublime, it's all about communication and connection. Always coming from a place of kindness and curiosity, we talk about shared humanity, discuss ideas, and highlight people creating a better world. We've got to keep learning, keep growing, keep being. I'm Melissa Beek, and this is Beek on Being. Today's episode is Beek on Being and Breathwork. Breath is life. Breathing is essential, but most people don't even think about their breathing patterns or the importance of that. Breath is directly connected to the nervous system and affects how we think, behave, and relate. Today, we have breathwork and presence coach and founder of Engage Breathwork, Erin Dahlgren, to talk about why breathwork isn't just about relaxation, but why it's so very necessary for clarity and presence when it really counts. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad. Can you please introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about you?
Sure. My name's Erin. I grew up in Australia, which you might notice from my accent.
Love it.
I come from a performing arts background. Originally, I trained as a singer and a performer, predominantly in musical theater. And then in later years, I was a teacher teaching both children and adults, mostly theater. And then in the past few years, I've discovered breathwork, which has been a really incredible journey for me. And now much of my work is based not only in the breathwork space. I train breath guides as well as using that to help people with their communication skills and increase their connection to their own presence and confidence. So it's been quite a journey for me. I feel like I've had like 1,000 different careers on the way to this one.
But everything led to that.
Yeah, it feels like the intersection of much of what I've spent most of my life learning and focusing on. So it's a really exciting time.
Incredible. So can you tell us what breathwork is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So breathwork essentially is breathing in a way that is conscious. For so many of us, it's something that we don't think about. We breathe automatically. It happens in the background without our conscious input. So breathwork is when we shift that focus into something that is very intentional and conscious. And that can start with simply just noticing your breath and becoming aware of what it's doing at any particular moment, and moving all the way into shifting those patterns and changing the way that we breathe in order to give ourselves different effects. There's thousands of different modalities, thousands of different techniques you can use, all based on different outcomes and what you're really looking to get out for it. So there's a lot of space to explore.
So how did you get into it? You said you had like a drama background and you shifted towards this. What were the steps of all of those things?
Yes, it's sort of a roundabout journey, but essentially I found early motherhood days really challenging. Yeah. And I experienced a lot of parental burnout. And then, of course, just as I was coming out of that, that was when 2020 happened and COVID and everything sort of became heavier in a way. And I was working from home, teaching, raising small children. My husband, the same. He's a very busy person in his career. And we reached this breaking point in about 2022 and decided that this is all too much for us. We need a reset. So we quit our jobs and moved to Sweden, where he's from, and spent a year just spending time with family, reconnecting to each other, walking in the forest, connecting to the kids and ourselves. And we were really fortunate to be in a position to be able to do that. But I had been practicing yoga for a lot of years, and that was sort of my reset button on a lot of days after I got the kids to school. And I noticed that I felt more myself and more balanced on those days when I was able to access my practice. But I also noticed that I didn't have the ability to take that practice from the mat and move it into my everyday life. So it was fairly short-lived for me at that time. And then when we came to Sweden, a friend of mine was asking me if I'd heard about breathwork as a modality, and I hadn't. And he said, yeah, there's a studio down the street. You should go and try it. So I signed up for my first class there and then. Yep. And I went and I had this incredible experience. I really felt like I met myself for the first time. It was very emotional. And it felt almost like this process of peeling back all these layers of all the things that I'd been taught to be and had to be and been conditioned to be my entire life, just in order to survive and get through the things that we deal with in life.
Right.
And it was this peeling back of the layers and actually like finding out what was underneath, this real essence of who I am. And it was a very emotional, as I said, emotional process.
Wow.
And I was hooked immediately. I was
Yeah.
like, I want more of this.
Yeah, I want some of that too.
Exactly. So I think that day I booked another 3 classes. And a couple of weeks later, the studio that I was breathing with said, we're doing a training to train new breath guides. And I signed up immediately. And that was a 10-month process for that first training. Incredibly intensive, but beautiful journey, very transformational.
I was just going to say, had to have
And
been.
I was hooked after that. So
Yeah, because who wants to just get through? You want to thrive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And be your most authentic self.
Exactly. I think that's the key for me.
Yeah. So who can benefit from breath work? Is it just
literally everyone?
everybody? Okay. Like in what capacity?
In some form or another. And obviously no two people are the same.
Right.
No two people's needs are the same.
Right.
But because of the connection that it has with our body, with our nervous system, with our ability to regulate emotions, as well as other health benefits. I mean, I could sit here all day and just talk to you about the benefits it has on sleep and digestion and all these different aspects. But what I'd really love to focus on more than anything is just this unlearning of all these things that we've had. I mean, most of us are born as babies and we breathe in a beautiful, functional way.
Right.
And then with all the things that life kind of throws at us and all the things we adapt to, we unlearn those beautiful techniques.
Right, we're conditioned.
Exactly. And start to breathe in habits and create habits and patterns that don't always serve us in life. So it creates this cycle where the breath influences things like our stress levels, our anxiety, creates symptoms that we don't even realize that are symptoms.
Right.
And it starts this cycle towards
bad breathing.
Yes, exactly.
So tell me a little bit more about, you said it helps with the digestion and it helps with all these different, can you just give us a sampling of all the things that breathwork helps with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, performance is another one that is starting to be focused on a lot in life. So athletic performance, most of us, many of us in life are breathing dysfunctionally. I think I read somewhere up to 70 to 80% of us are breathing dysfunctionally. And many of us don't even realize that we're doing that. So often the breath is very high up. It's in the chest. We're involving the shoulders. We're creating tension in the neck. And that serves as like a feedback loop to the body. So we're finding these habits that are feedbacking to ourselves, making us feel more stressed, more anxious.
Right.
Having trouble falling asleep at night is often very closely related to the breath,
common.
or falling asleep and then waking up in the middle of the night and having trouble getting back to sleep. Of course, there's a number of factors that could go into that, but learning how to breathe to
more natural
combat
rhythm.
that, yes, and slow down your breath and influence the nervous system in that way, because the autonomic nervous system is the automatic part of our body that is responsible for so many different things, and we can't consciously control most of it.
Right.
We can't consciously control our heartbeat or our temperature or our digestion, but we can control the breath, and all those things are linked quite intricately. So when we start to access the breath, we suddenly get access to our heartbeat and our digestion. So breathing further down in the belly, allowing the tension in the belly to release so that the belly can expand as you inhale. Even things like that are going to just start to create more space for the body to be able to do what it needs to do.
Naturally.
Exactly.
So I was going to say, why was it, but you just answered the next question I had was, why is it so important to be aware of our breaths? Because stress management, emotion, sleeping, all of those things.
Well, awareness, I think, is the first step, because you can't even start to change any habits until you become aware of what those habits are.
So how does someone become aware of those habits?
Just by sitting with the breath. And I often say that, I mean, a lot of breath guides and breath coaches tend to focus on these big cathartic practices that take you deep into deeper levels of consciousness and the psyche, and people have these big emotional reactions. And that's great. That's wonderful practice as far as that goes. But one of the most powerful, consistent practices you can do, in my opinion, is just sitting with your breath and noticing what's there and the stories that it tells you about your state of being in that moment.
Wow.
And I think that's a really powerful thing. Even just, 30 seconds a day to 2 minutes, 5 minutes if you've got it to spare, to just sit with your breath and really listen to it without judging, without changing. And that awareness will start to lead into this recognition of patterns. Okay, I'm breathing a little faster today, but I notice I'm stressed. Okay, so stress equals breathing faster.
Got it.
And then once we start to recognize that each emotion, each state of being has its own pattern,
Mm-hmm.
we can familiarize ourselves with that and start to make
So we
adjustments.
should journal this a little bit too, like write down like the
Absolutely.
things that preceded the way we're breathing that moment, what we were doing prior, what we're thinking of at the time.
hmm
Oh, that's fabulous. Okay, can you expand upon natural breathing habits and what happens both when we're calm and we're nervous? Because you said you have to sit with yourself and be aware of the breathing. So can you tell us the different types?
hmm Absolutely. So again, everyone's going to be different, but generally what we see when I work with people is that when you are feeling anxious or stressed,
Mm-hmm.
very often we're over breathing. We're breathing far more than our body requires or our
Faster,
metabolic needs.
deeper.
Usually faster,
Okay.
usually quite high up in the
Mm-hmm.
chest and the shoulders. We're getting accessory muscles that are not really designed for functional breathing
Right.
involved. Those muscles are usually only getting involved when we have a higher metabolic need. So if
Mm-hmm.
we've just run a marathon, you're going to use those muscles because you
Right.
need as much air as you can. Whereas many of us are using those muscles consistently throughout the day, and they're just not designed to be able to use
So we're feeding
constantly
more
like that.
into anxiety, more into panic,
Exactly.
more into nervousness.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
that feedback loop we're talking about. So the breath is influencing the stress and the body and the nervous system, and
Sure.
in turn, the nervous system is influencing the breath. So
Yeah,
we
big
get into
circle.
that circle. Exactly. So we
Okay.
hack that by adjusting it.
Okay. So more calmer breaths.
Exactly.
Okay.
So again, everybody's different. Many of us overbreathe. So generally what I would say is don't be worried about breathing less. We hear
Okay.
take a deep breath a lot. When
Right.
people are nervous
Right.
or people are stressed, you hear take a deep breath.
Right.
But often that people picture that as these great big kind of
Yeah.
deep breaths like that. And that can often feed the problem. So
Right.
what's happening in the body when that happens is we are getting rid of quite a lot of carbon dioxide. Carbon
Mhm.
dioxide is, as many people will realize, what we exhale when we let our breath go. But it's not just a waste product. It's something that our body needs a certain level
Mhm.
of because it regulates how much oxygen is released from
Right.
the hemoglobin into our brain, our body, our cells, our
Sure.
muscles,
We need
everything.
it.
So when we breathe too much, we get rid of quite a lot. And then we're not able to utilize the oxygen that we're getting. So taking deep breaths is actually going to
Efficient.
mean that you're getting less oxygen and it's using more energy.
Right.
So slowing the breath down, yes, for sure. And even breathing a little smaller than usual and just
Okay.
noticing how that feels. And sometimes that can feel a little scary, like there's not
Right.
enough air.
Right.
And yet,
Like you want to take a breath.
exactly. So noticing that curiosity, coming at it with that sense of curiosity and
Right.
noticing. But what's happening if I were to hook you up to a machine that measures all these different things, the carbon dioxide and the oxygen, what you'll often find is that you're increasing the amount of oxygen that you're going to receive and starting to create these patterns that allow the body again to do what it needs to do to find calm.
Does it take a long time to establish that new pattern or that new habit?
Habits, generally, yes. I would
Okay.
say you will probably feel a fairly instantaneous effect in the moment, but to create a new habit, we need to do that consistently. So,
Right.
breathwork has this beautiful way of kind of giving you both that short-term gratification, that
Mhm.
instant
Right.
gratification of having an immediate tangible
Success.
effect that you
Mhm.
can feel, and also being a practice that when you do it for a long time consistently,
Mhm.
the effects actually grow exponentially because you are going to start to find those new patterns and create those new habits. I would say it takes about anywhere between 2 to 5 weeks to
Okay.
create a new habit, a new breathing habit.
Does the same breathwork method work for everybody? Is there like one thing? No, not one size fits all.
No, never one size fits all. I mean, there are, again, consistent patterns that we see in many people, like the
Mhm.
overbreathing. I would say there are certain techniques that I would recommend for most people. For example, nose breathing
Okay.
is wonderful for most people. And you hear a lot of breath guides talking about the wonderful effects of nose breathing. We're designed to breathe through the nose. There's been books written about it. I definitely recommend. I can recommend some books to you
Yes,
later.
please.
But there's a lot of people that talk about the effects of nose breathing, and that consistently is something that is really good for most people. We're not designed to be able to breathe through the mouth unless we're speaking, singing, eating. Generally, the nose is what is going to warm the air and humidify it and create this lovely filtration system that we need to be able to breathe effectively.
So what is nose breathing for our listeners? Can you expand upon that?
Quite simply closing your mouth,
That's
breathing in and out
It's
through the
not
nose.
like holding one nostril or holding the other, alternating.
So alternating nostril breathing is a beautiful practice that you find in pranayama, the yogic tradition of breathing, and that it has some great effects as well, absolutely. But I'm talking about just generally breathing in
Just
and out
closing your
through the
mouth.
nose.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
close
it.
your mouth any chance you get, and you'll find, again, people will generally be quite noisy mouth breathers often. And it's not ideal, and it can create a lot of health problems that a lot of people don't realize that they're having due to just breathing
Being
through
a
the
mouth
mouth.
breather.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Everything from the shape of your face to the constriction of your blood vessels. I mean, there's a whole lot that's happening in the body when we're not breathing optimally.
Really? So how do we start a breathwork practice? Like, where do we begin?
I would say, again, coming back to just noticing.
Okay.
Noticing
just
the breath.
sitting.
Just sitting and noticing the breath.
Okay.
Playing around with it for sure by yourself is a great way to do it. There's a lot of resources that you can find online. I have several on my website, some guided practices.
Which will be in my link so everybody can follow.
Absolutely. So finding resources online is a great way to start, even just 5 minutes a day. But noticing the breath is definitely where I would start before we start to move into some of these practices that work on giving us different effects. So there
Okay.
are practices that are very good for calming and relaxing the nervous system, centering ourselves. There's practices for balance. A lot of the practices, you're able to find the best of both worlds. So you get the activation side of the nervous system, the focus and the energy,
Okay.
and also the calm and grounding. So there's practices that sort of give you both sides.
Okay.
And then there are the very, very activating practices as well that are going to make you fly as high as a kite.
Okay. So tell us about all those different practices and how they affect you mentally and physically. Like how the breath work works for, let's say, if you're calm or you're panicked or you're anxious or you just want to perform at the most maximum that you can for your body.
Yeah.
How does it affect you physically and mentally?
Well, the autonomic nervous system, as I mentioned, has two main branches. We have the sympathetic side, which is responsible for our activation, for our focus, energy, and then the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, which is closely connected to our rest, our digest, our ability to relax and calm. A lot of people, I think, when they think about regulation, and there's a lot of buzz around nervous system regulation at the moment, I think people generally think that that just means finding calm constantly and having this baseline that's really
but you
just
can't be calm all the
placed.
time.
Exactly. No, it's not realistic, and we're not designed to do that either. So we're designed to be able to shift from one to the other. The problem is that's the way we were designed in a world that hasn't really looked that way for a very long time.
Right.
So the things that used to stress us out, factors like being eaten by, I don't know, a saber-toothed tiger.
Right.
Those things don't really exist. And our nervous system hasn't necessarily evolved to tell the difference between a tiger and an email from your boss.
Right.
So many of us are in that state of activation and high stress level all the time, just because of work, family, traffic, kids, emails, the whole bit.
So much.
So we've lost that ability to be able to shift state from
no flexibility.
Activation into calm. So learning how the breath connects to that is really paramount to being able to have the choice. It's like driving a car.
Right.
Where your inhale is your activation. I mean, think about what happens when someone almost spills a glass of wine on the carpet. What do you do with your breath?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You inhale quickly because your body knows that it needs that immediate
Response,
mobilization, that response. Exactly. So the inhale is going to be your gas pedal in the car. Whereas the exhale, what do we do in the children's stories when the hero makes it home safe and sound?
Phew, relax.
Phew, exactly. We exhale. So the exhale is more directly related to the parasympathetic side of the
Got it.
nervous system. So when you're driving, you need both. You need the
Mhm.
gas and the brake, and you need to
Right.
be able to control them. So
Right.
having that ability to understand what your needs are, if you're someone who exists predominantly in a slightly activated state all the time, and that's your baseline, and you want to be able to adjust it back down to a place where you can fall asleep at night or
Right.
fall back asleep, you're going to have to do exercises that focus a lot more on exhales
Right.
and lengthening the exhales, making them slower and longer and deeper in order to gradually shift your baseline to a
Right.
place where you can do that. And that can feel really uncomfortable for a lot of people because they've existed in that state for such a long time
Right.
that
There's a familiarity to it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So shifting into a place of parasympathetic activation can actually feel dangerous to
Right.
the body. The nervous system's like, whoa,
Wait, what
hey,
happened?
I don't know about this. This doesn't feel right for
We
me.
made a wrong turn somewhere. What's happening?
Exactly. So it's not always going to have that immediate, like, oh, now I feel calm. Often that can actually bring out frustration or panic in
Mhm.
people that are not used to that. So
Right.
again, just noticing, okay, this is making me feel really uncomfortable,
Uncomfortable.
trying to slow my breath down and lengthen the exhale. And just noticing that maybe means that this is something I need more.
To work
And
on,
being
yeah.
able to discern whether or not that's uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar and there's resistance to it, or maybe it's just not right for you.
Right. And
So,
I was going to say vice versa. If you're someone who operates on a level of calm all the time, but you need to get like up and motivated,
exactly.
you need to sort of change into that level of breathing.
Yes, a
Okay.
much faster activated
Right.
side. And
Action.
we do
Action.
practices like that as well.
Okay.
There's a practice that's very common in the breathwork world, and essentially at its base it's circular connected breathing.
Okay.
So we're taking away the little pauses that we normally have in our breath cycle and connecting them so that they flow from one to the other.
Right.
And so that starts to eliminate the opportunity for that carbon dioxide to rise, and it becomes very activating for the nervous system. And there's lots of different variations on what that looks like. But essentially, that's going to start to give you that sympathetic activation depending on how fast you go with it.
Okay. And why? I mean, we've discussed a little bit about the nervous system, but why is it critical for us to be able to tap into that and manage that?
Tap into,
Just to be able to regulate our nervous system. Why is that critical?
yeah, I mean, we want to be able to have the choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, that idea of regulation means that we're just kind of suppressing everything
Right.
and finding that constant calm. And it's the same thing with emotional regulation as well. I think people generally think that emotional regulation means just suppressing anything
Right.
that's perceived as a negative emotion
Right.
and just feeling happy all the time or
Right.
feeling calm
Which
all the
isn't
time.
normal either.
No, exactly. So a lot of times the ability to regulate just means being able to stay with what's there,
To be present
to be
in what's
present,
happening and to feel that.
even if it's uncomfortable.
Right.
And the breath is a beautiful way of allowing you to do that, to breathe into those things that feel unfamiliar or unsafe and staying with it. But also noticing where your edges are, I think, is really important. There's a lot of people that might not be able to access an exercise that someone else can do
Right.
happily. So I think that's an important thing to keep in the picture when we're talking about breath work. These big cathartic practices that sometimes can go on for hours that are advertised as giving people these enormous trauma releases
Right.
or things like that. For a lot of people, that's not accessible for their nervous system based on your history and your
Right.
needs. So
Your
being
personal
aware of
needs.
your safety there is really important.
So is breathwork something that needs to be a daily practice, or is it something that we can tap into when we need it?
Both.
Or both? Okay. I was gonna
Definitely
say.
both. I mean, like anything, the effects are going to compound over time if you're practicing regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And that might only mean sitting in your car for 2 minutes and just taking that space to check in with what's happening. I don't recommend holding your breath
Right.
or breathing quickly in the car. We certainly want to make sure we're doing it in a safe place. But just taking 2 minutes out of your day,
Mm-hmm.
even while you're doing something else, just to notice what's there. That's
Just to
enough.
become aware.
That's breath work in itself. If you have more opportunity to experiment with different techniques and have a space in your home where you can lie down and connect and do a whole session. I mean, many of the sessions that I guide are 30 minutes or an hour long.
Mm-hmm.
So having the space and time to do that on occasion or every day, great. Power
Yeah.
to you. That's going to have enormous effects,
And you
both
said
immediately
lying
and over
down.
time.
Is it something that we could do? Like, is it where each person is comfortable, or is it not good for your diaphragm or your lungs to be doing it sitting down? We're kind of like squishing the accordion of it.
The beautiful thing about the breath is it's very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say sitting or standing, you can practice just
Anywhere.
as easily.
Okay.
This is a tool that is available to you anywhere, anytime. You don't need any equipment, any money, anything to be able to
Right.
access it. Just the knowledge and the practice, essentially. So that's what makes it really, really great. And you can do it sitting up. But if you're going to practice a full length, longer breathwork session that has more
Right.
techniques, especially activating ones where you're releasing a lot of carbon dioxide, as we talked about, there's a good chance you're going to start to feel lightheaded.
Okay.
So it's a good idea for those particular scenarios to be laying down and find a safe place to do that. And also because sometimes you just drift away to sleep.
Right.
And that's
No,
one of the
that's
most
good.
beautiful side effects of
Yeah.
breathwork.
No, you know what? I have experienced that lightheadedness, just in different types of things. And that's the first time I became aware of breath work, doing, well, not breath work, but aware of my personal breathing and doing some different yoga breathing. And then I would realize if I was doing it too fast or too slow or inhaling or exhaling in a different way, I realized I was getting lightheaded. So I'm now going to be more aware and more conscious of my breathing, especially since talking to you about being aware of that. That was the first time I was aware of just breathing differently. I would like to do a daily practice. That'd be amazing.
Definitely.
You'll have to give us like little tips and tricks at the end. So how can someone even begin to focus on breathing when they're in a panic state or they're nervous or their stressful level is so high?
Yeah. It's a good question, and it's something I've worked with people who have panic disorders and anxiety and have challenges, and I myself have
Yeah.
had quite a few experiences where I've had panic attacks over the years.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a really scary thing when you tip into that place where you no longer have control.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's not a lot you can do to get out of it, like when it comes to the breath, other than the good old paper bag method. You know, you get a paper bag, you breathe into it. That's going to mean that you're rebreathing your own carbon dioxide.
Right.
So that hyperventilation where you're getting rid of a lot of carbon dioxide and you're starting to feel tingly and dizzy,
Right.
that's going to mitigate that. If you don't have a paper bag, you can also put your hands, like cup your hands over your
Right.
face.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, and breathe into your hands. But essentially what we want to do to kind of interrupt that cycle,
panic, yeah.
panic, is to find access to the breath, firstly.
Okay.
And the way that I do that, and I notice that when I've had people in sessions start to shift into that place, is just by coming back to your body.
Yeah.
So noticing, it's a very common technique. I think a lot of therapists use it as well. Noticing, firstly, what you can hear.
Right.
What can you hear right now? I can hear
Okay.
myself breathing. I can hear my heart beating. I can hear the neighbor banging on the wall, whatever it is that you can hear in the space. Just
Okay.
focus on what you can hear. Focus on 3 things that you can see
Got it.
and just name them in your mind. Focus on 3 things that you can touch. Come back into your body.
Okay.
And then you hopefully have more access to your breath and start to slow it down, make it a little smaller. So instead of those
Yeah. Yeah.
big,
Totally nervous
high
and
breaths
anxious.
up
Yeah.
in the chest that are breathing very quickly and very heavily, we want to start to slow it down. See if you can start to lengthen that exhale again just a little bit.
Okay.
See if you can access nose breathing. That's going to limit how much overbreathing you
Right.
can do. But that's a process that you have to interrupt first before you can even access that.
And you're interrupting it with being aware of different sensory things.
Exactly.
So what you can see, what you can hear, what you can touch.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Got
So
it.
the
Good
easier
tool.
thing to do is when you start to notice the panic rising. That's the easier time, I find.
Right. Sure.
To interrupt
Once
that
you're in full
cycle
panic
before-
mode, it's hard to reel that back in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So noticing that and taking those moments when you feel it start to set in to, again, notice, okay, I can feel this panic rising. How can I access
Starting to
my
stress
breath?
out.
Exactly. So slowing it down, switching to nose breathing would be the first thing that I do.
Yeah.
And then starting to breathe a little softer, a little smaller if you can, lengthening that exhale.
I like what you said about the nose breathing because that's something that you can immediately switch
Mm-hmm.
to. I just did it while we were while you were saying it, and I was aware of what you said about not taking those big breaths
Mm-hmm.
with your mouth closed. It actually sort of like tames the situation immediately.
Yes.
So it's like a great,
It really
great tool.
limits
Yeah.
how much we
Yeah.
can spiral into overbreathing.
Oh, that's a
for
great
sure.
tool. I'm going to start implementing that.
Mm.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the long-term benefits of breathwork exercises.
I mean,
Stress management.
definitely in the stress management field,
Okay.
having access to your breath long term is going to give you this resilience
Okay.
that I think is difficult to find these days. We're very accustomed to moving away from anything that feels uncomfortable
Right.
in life.
Avoidance.
Avoidance, exactly. We like to stay in our comfort zone.
Right. Sure.
And I think by exploring the breath, and there are some particular practices that can really train you to be able to sit with that discomfort
Right.
a little bit. For
And be
example,
okay.
and be okay. There are a lot of practices that focus on breath holding. And the idea of breath holding is that we're allowing the carbon dioxide levels to rise a little.
Mhm.
And that's often what people feel very uncomfortable with. Carbon dioxide is what drives the urge to breathe. So we have like this trigger point almost. And once the carbon dioxide rises and hits that trigger point, it signals to the body, okay, time to take the next breath.
Right.
And many people have a very low
Threshold.
Yes,
Mhm.
low threshold. So what we want to do is start to push that threshold and adapt more to that carbon dioxide tolerance, that air hunger feeling
Right.
that you need to take the next breath. So it's going to give you that resilience of being able to sit with discomfort and notice
And
it
be okay
and
with
be
it.
okay with it. That's one of the most beautiful things, I think, long
Right.
term that I've experienced, as well as, again, the ability to just notice, okay, I'm feeling nervous at the moment. I'm
Right.
feeling stressed. Let me just adjust my patterns. Even coming in here today,
Right.
I noticed there was that little bit of activation in me. And it
Right.
wasn't even necessarily nerves. It was just this
New
feeling of doing
experiences.
something that was unfamiliar, a
Yeah.
little bit outside my comfort zone, a little bit scary. Okay, what do? I adjust. I know my patterns at this point. So I know that if I breathe in and out through the nose at a nice even rate, so
Mhm.
usually for me, that's about 5 or 6 seconds in, 5 or 6 seconds out. That means that I can give myself enough of the focus and energy that I need to do a good job,
Right.
but also steady my nerves enough so that I can actually access
Right.
my thoughts, my feelings, my authenticity, my fun side.
Right.
That comes with dancing as
Yes.
well.
We had a
But
great big beat. We danced. We had so much fun beforehand. I loved it. Thank you.
no, of course, that was the best part so far. But it's just, again, the more you practice breath work, the more you become familiar with your own needs in different
Mhm.
situations and how you can essentially, it's like the biggest life hack to be
Yeah.
able to make those adjustments, those micro adjustments that only take 30 seconds, but give you the ability to truly show up as who you are. You're the best version of yourself
Right.
in any situation, whether it's 3 o'clock and you want to take a nap, but you've got work to do and you
Mhm.
need that focus. Okay, let me just breathe for 20 seconds in a nice activating way. It's like having a shot of espresso.
Right.
All of a sudden, I'm switched on, I'm ready to
You're
go.
ready to go.
Or whether it's showing up for my kids when there's triggers and I'm having trouble keeping my composure
Right.
and being able to connect with them and just
Right.
taking those breaths that allow me to do that.
The hard mom moments.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
whether it's falling back to sleep at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I want to talk about breath work in both personal and professional situations.
Mhm.
How can you said a little bit about the personal side of using breath work when you're in a situation with your children or coming into a new area that you're not familiar with, but how can people access it for professional situations?
I mean, they're almost one and the same,
Okay.
personal and professional,
Right.
because I think the essence of being able to show up as your best self kind of exists across all those planes.
True.
But at work, there's so many more stimuli, things
Right.
happening that require our attention, our multitasking, our focus, our energy. And very often at work, there's conflicts and presentations and
Yeah,
all
because I was
sorts
going to
of
say like public speaking.
public
Being a
speaking.
mom isn't public speaking. That's like micromanaging. but
For sure.
public speaking, that's a huge fear people have.
Yes, it's a bigger fear for most people than sharks or being, I don't know, many of the things we should be afraid of.
Right.
Public speaking is a big one on most people's lists. And that's something that I work with a lot, both in performers and in corporate professionals, or even just as well with moms or entrepreneurs, anyone that needs to show up and speak in public and is nervous or finds that their adrenaline hijacks who they want to show up as. Because
So
that's a
true.
big challenge for so many people.
Adrenaline hijacking. Absolutely.
Exactly. So the breath is really the foundation of what that process looks like. I've worked with people as a communication coach for years now. So I have a lot of tips and tricks. You know, I come from
I
a
love
singer
these tips and
background. I
tricks.
work with voices and understanding how to use your voice, also accessing that in the best possible way through your breath. And as well, your body language, working with storytelling, things like this. But essentially, none of those tips and tricks are going to work for you if you don't have access to your breath.
Right.
Because in those high stakes moments, that's what's going to shift everything. If you can't access your groundedness, your calm, your regulation, you're not going to have access to the logic and reasoning part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. You're going to go off into that place of panic. So really understanding that and being able to ground yourself with some of these breathing techniques. And the people that I've worked with often come back to me after breathwork sessions, and I work with a lot of companies as well in corporate settings, and they say, you know, Erin, I did that particular breathing exercise you taught me, whether it's balanced breathing or box breathing. I did that exercise before I went into a big presentation last week, and guess what? I nailed it. And it's the best feeling in the world to hear that, because these techniques are so easily integrated into real life situations. They only take a few minutes, and as I said, we have access to it all the time.
Right.
Hearing that people are able to remember them and access them and then find them that impactful is really gratifying.
Can you tell us more about the programs that you have, especially for high stake moments?
Yes. So I'm working currently, there's an 8-week program that I'm running. We have a group that is currently halfway through the program, and we have another one starting in May. It's called Presence Under Pressure.
Okay.
8 weeks to command your voice and master your presence.
And they can get that through the link that you're going to give me that I'm going to put on.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
In May, do we know the date, the start date?
I believe it's the first week of May.
Okay,
yes.
great. Okay,
so
good.
It's currently running on a Wednesday night, which is working really well. So we'll see what the availability is like going forward. It's a group coaching program. So we meet every Wednesday night for 2 hours, and we go through not only these tips and tricks, but each session we ground ourselves with these breathwork techniques so that those tips and tricks can be integrated fully and in a way that feels very authentic and natural.
Right.
Because I think that to me is the most important thing. It's one thing for me to say, okay, you use your voice like this, or you do a power pose like this, but often that's not going to feel natural or authentic to someone.
Right.
But when we use the breath to kind of land in these places where it feels authentic, we can then embody those techniques and actually be able to rely on them and use them in those high stakes moments without having to think too hard.
And in real time, because you can't just say, excuse me, I need to go sit in that room for a second and tap in. You have to be conscious of it in the moment and do it in real time while you're in those experiences.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this before, but I want you to expand upon it if you can, about how breath work helps you to find your most authentic self.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to explain, actually. I noticed that there's not necessarily a scientific explanation. And for me, I like science. I like understanding what's happening underneath the techniques and what's happening in the body. And you've probably noticed that at this point, that I really can like geek out on the science.
I'm right there with you, geeking out. I love it.
Because it's important to me to actually understand. And work with what's happening in the body in a way that is true. But understanding authenticity is like a whole nother level, because again, there's so many things that we're born knowing naturally, not only how to breathe, but who we are,
Right.
really, that kind of gets like beaten out of us as life goes
Yeah.
on, you know?
Yeah.
I can relate to that female experience of constantly having to be the good girl and
Right.
having to be very obedient
Right.
and not take up too much space.
Right. Being
And
conditioned to be what's
exactly,
supposed to be
exactly.
accepted
So
instead of
as
who
a
you are.
child, from a very young age, I think that we're conditioned that way. Many of us, not just women. And then we go through life and we keep adding on these layers of armor. You know, you have an experience as a teenager where someone laughs at you. Oh, I'm never going to do that again. You
Right.
know, and there's these moments where you feel authentic, but you kind of get almost punished for those moments
Right.
sometimes because you're weird or silly
Right.
or whatever. And so we build up again these layers of armor that we don't even know are there, and it can get
Right.
really heavy. For me, when I breathe in a certain way, and that is again coming back to that circular connected breathing,
Right.
what that does is it allows me to access deeper layers of my own mind. And I call it like loosening the chains of my overthinking mind.
I love
You
that.
know, that mind that kind of grips you in, like, yeah, but if I do that, it's going to feel like this, or there's consequences to
Right.
being that. All those things kind of loosen
So
their grip.
loud in your own head.
Exactly. So coming back to the breath and really allowing it to help me enter my body and access those deeper layers of consciousness really just like releases all those things that we're holding
The
on to,
heaviness.
the heaviness. And layer by layer, I start to feel lighter and start to feel that,
Truer.
yeah,
Yeah.
really true sense of who I am, that authentic sense. And I think, again, coming back to what you were asking about, how does that benefit us over time? The more we do that, the more we find those pathways back to that,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. No. True.
And then we start to notice, I mean, for me, those behaviors, those authentic behaviors didn't always serve me as a child,
Right.
but
Different as
not
an adult.
having access to them is holding me back
Right.
as an adult, and
Right.
and was for years. So now that I have access to them, I'm relearning that those behaviors can actually be rewarding,
Yeah.
and I can find connection with people
Truer,
through
happier,
authenticity, and I find that
self-confidence.
people are drawn to me in a way that they
Yeah.
weren't before. And so I'm meeting the people that are my people,
Yeah.
you know? So
I
that's
like it.
been really, really rewarding way to kind of um, access a
Right.
part of myself that I just didn't have available
Yeah.
before, and enhance that.
I think I think you tapped into it. I think when you expose your true self, your reflection comes back to the people who are authentically themselves as well, and you gravitate to that.
Hmm.
And so that's where you find your real group, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think it helps you to be freer, happier, more relaxed, more confident.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us some of the misconceptions about breath work that people have?
Yes, there are a few. I think the first one is always just, I've been breathing my whole life. Why do I need someone
Yeah.
to come along and tell me what to do?
What do you
And
say to those
yes, of
people?
course, you've been breathing your whole life. You're an expert at
Right.
your breath patterns, but that's not always something that's serving you. You
Right.
know, again, same with what we were just talking about with inauthenticity. We create these patterns based on our experiences. And if something was very stressful at a certain point in our life, for example, public speaking is the
Yeah.
perfect example. You stand up, you get on stage, your heart's beating really fast, you take control of your breath in a
Right.
dysfunctional way, and you create a habit
Right.
that is connected to public speaking or
Right.
that moment, that fear that you probably then carry with you throughout your
Other
life.
places. Yeah.
Exactly. So understanding your breath and being able to adjust it, I feel like a broken record here. That's really key.
Yeah.
So for people who say, I've been breathing my whole life, yes, you have been breathing your whole
But
life.
is it
But how
benefiting you?
functional
Right.
is that breathing? How is that serving you or not serving you?
Right.
How many health problems are you creating through dysfunctional breathing, or just not having the ability to access this
Right.
tool to help
Not even
yourself?
being aware.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what's the most important takeaway for everyone that they should know about breath work?
That's a really difficult question to answer because I have like 4 or 5 things that came into my mind
Lay it on us.
instantly.
Give them all. Give them all.
I think the biggest takeaway is when you build a relationship with your breath, you open up a world of possibilities for yourself in so many different realms. And it's almost difficult to communicate what all those realms are. I mean, we've touched on a few of them today.
Right.
You're going to give yourself emotional regulation. You're going to build your capacity for discomfort and resilience.
Mhm.
You're going to give yourself higher levels of performance. You can access higher levels of performance. You're going to give yourself the ability to show up as your best self for your kids, for your family, for your friends. There's like so many possibilities. You're going to give yourself the best chance of longevity. I
Yeah.
mean, just health overall. There's really no limits to what you can access when you start to pay attention to your breath and the way it interacts with so many aspects of your life.
Right. Feel better, think better, move better,
Yes.
be better. I love that. Can
I should make that my new motto.
Okay, go ahead. Do
I'm
it.
going to put that on my website
I
now.
love it. I love it. Do it. So this is a selfish motive. Can you give us a little exercise in breath work?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Should we do, let's do a little breath awareness.
Okay.
And from there, we might shift into a little diaphragmatic breathing.
Okay.
Just to notice what that feels like in a functional way.
So I'm going to ask for our listeners, first of all, don't do it while you're driving, but or maybe try it driving later, but should we be doing it with our eyes open? Should we be doing it with our eyes closed? Should we be sitting? Should we be laying down? Like,
I'll invite you. I'll invite you to sit or lie down comfortably, somewhere that feels relaxed and you're not tensing your muscles in order to stay upright.
I'm
so
leaning back.
Leaning back, nice and relaxed. And you're welcome to close your eyes. Or if that feels uncomfortable, just soften your gaze.
Okay.
Unless you're driving.
Right. I was just
Don't
going to
close
say.
your eyes.
Please don't close your eyes.
Always make sure you're doing breath work somewhere safe. So if you do feel a little lightheaded, you're not putting yourself in danger.
Right.
So notably, not in a car, not in the pool.
Right. Yes, please don't do that.
Make sure let's start with that.
Okay. So should we close our eyes?
If you feel comfortable doing so, you're welcome to close your eyes because it can help you sort of drop into what's happening.
Right.
And let's start with 3 conscious breaths in through the nose and then opening the mouth and sighing through the mouth. Really allow the breath to help you land in your body. 2 more. Just passively let it go through the mouth without controlling. Again, in through the nose. And then sighing it out. And then let go of control for the next few moments. And start to notice what's there when you're not manipulating the breath. Letting it find its own patterns and rhythms that feel natural. And without judging them either. Often just that very act of becoming aware of the breath can make us feel like we want to make these little adjustments, but see if you can just allow it to find its own way, noticing the shape of your breath. Is it fast or slow? Deep or shallow? Is it noisy or quiet? Noticing the pathway that the breath chooses through the nose or the mouth, down the back of the throat. Letting yourself be aware of the temperature as you inhale. Maybe noticing the area that you expand as you breathe in. Maybe that's in the belly, the ribs, the chest. Just paying attention to all the little nuances. Noticing that feeling of deflation as you exhale. Any shift in temperature as the air leaves your body. And for a few moments, just inviting the mind into the body. So often we miss all the little messages that the body gives us throughout the day because we're really caught up in our mind. So just take a moment to scan the body and notice if there's any tension, stiffness, soreness, any areas calling for our acknowledgement. Maybe there's an area of expansion or contraction that you're noticing in the body. Maybe you notice a feeling, a sensation, or emotion lurking somewhere in the body, and just take a moment, again, to acknowledge it without connecting, noticing if the breath changes in any way as you do. Maybe there are thoughts creating stories connected to that sensation. Again, just become aware of what they are without chasing them. And if your mind is wanting to follow along on those stories, bring it back gently to the breath, again noticing the breath and all the little details. And in the next few breaths, start to walk that bridge between no control, letting the breath do what it wants, to gently taking the reins of control without adjusting the pattern in any way. See what happens as you move into consciously controlling the breath. Now, in the next few breaths, see if you can bring your attention to your abdomen and the way that it rises and falls as you inhale and exhale. Many of us don't use the belly when we breathe. Underneath the rib cage is where our diaphragm, our largest breathing muscle, sits. And what we're trying to do is release tension in the abdomen, in the belly, to create space so that the diaphragm can contract downward as we inhale, pulling the lungs with it downward. So just let go of any tension so that as you inhale, the belly moves outwards, making space for the breath. And then deflates gently, recoiling as the diaphragm moves upwards. If it helps, you can place a hand on your belly and a hand on your chest just to give yourself that feedback. Just noticing. Good. I invite you to breathe a little deeper if that feels okay for you. Breathing deeply into the belly, letting it expand fully as you inhale. And then deflate softly. Controlling the breath so it feels even and soft. Let's take a couple of conscious, connected circular breaths from here, breathing in through the nose, letting the belly fill with air, and then opening the mouth and sighing it out. Starting your next breath right away, breathing in, sighing it out. Good. Again, inhale and letting go. Active inhale through the nose. Open the mouth and sigh. Two more here. Inhaling and exhaling. Last breath. And then letting go of control once again. Just noticing any sensations. Maybe there's a little bit of activation here after that last few breaths. Maybe a little tingling. Just notice what's present and available for you. Maybe something's shifted. Maybe there's resistance or discomfort. Again, just notice that. We're learning something new about our state of being in this moment. And when you're ready, before opening your eyes, if your eyes are closed, just gently allow yourself to become aware of something in the room. Maybe it's the light behind your eyelids. Maybe it's a soft noise or the feeling of air blowing against your skin. Make that transition in your mind before opening your eyes and coming back to the space.
That was incredible.
Welcome back.
Thank you. That, first of all, that was magnificent. I was very conscious of, in the beginning, just the relaxation in my physical body. My hands got softer, my shoulders dropped, I leaned back more. And then as you guided us through that, I noticed I was taking shallow breaths initially. And then when we started to talk about engaging the belly, and being conscious of putting my hands on my chest and my belly, I realized I was taking a deeper, more belly breath.
Mm-hmm.
And that was incredible too. And then I also noticed that depending on how quick or how slow my breath was, I would get lightheaded with the quicker breaths.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. But very much more aware of what was going on in my system, mental, physical, emotional, through that. So is that experience different every time for everyone? Or do you experience every time you tap into those tips and tricks that you do, is the experience the same for you? The awareness the same for you? Or is it different each time?
Always different.
Always different.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm hearing from you, if I can reflect back,
Yeah.
that your awareness of your body firstly increased.
Yes, first the body.
And I think that is definitely one of the best parts of this. As I
Okay.
mentioned, we live so much in our mind and we so rarely actually tap into what's happening
Right.
in the body. And that's giving us so many signals,
That we're not
and
listening
thousands
to.
of signals that we're not listening to all the time.
Right.
So just that moment of tapping into what's there is a big part of what the breath can do for
Yeah.
you. And then hearing that you became aware of your belly
Yeah.
and the way that you were breathing and were able to make those adjustments.
Totally different breathing, yeah.
Yes. And then the slight lightheadedness from the activation breathing,
Mhm.
very common.
Is
Very
it?
common.
Okay.
Because that's what I'm talking about with that over breathing. We're breathing more than what our body needs.
Right.
So we're going to get a little less oxygen and we start to activate. Our
Yeah.
nerves become a little excited. So we get
Right.
a little tingling usually.
Yeah.
Many people are breathing that way all day, every day.
Oh, no, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Without realizing it. They're breathing more than they need to and getting tingling and lightheadedness that they don't even realize is
Yeah.
connected to their own breathing patterns. So just, again, noticing that difference of what happens when we start to activate a little. And again, this is why we lie down
Right.
for longer breathwork sessions. Yeah, I loved hearing just that
Yeah, I want to ask
realization.
Stephen his experience too. Stephen, did you do it with us? You did? He fell asleep. You can't, listeners, I don't think they can hear you, but he really liked it, right? He took that little break he needed.
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
I love that. No, he was so relaxed. I love that.
Sometimes that's exactly what you need as well.
We were talking about that before the session. We both were talking about, we need to take a little break. This was incredible.
But yeah, it's different every time. It's
Yeah.
going to be different. Even if you listen back to this same recording over and over, often you'll notice there's a big difference day to day, hour to hour,
Yeah.
as to what you feel. Because
Situational too,
we're
yeah.
learning about our state.
Yeah.
That's really all we're doing when we do these breath awareness exercises. It's just learning something new about our body, our nervous
Yeah.
system, our breath, and the stories that it tells us about.
And the
what we
state
need.
isn't constant. We're always in different states. So yeah. Oh, wow. That's incredible. Oh, thank you so much. Is there anything we didn't cover?
No, I mean, we covered a lot today.
Right.
I would say I love to share this practice with people.
Mm-hmm.
I have several pre-recorded programs on my website,
Yeah.
including one specifically designed for kids and parents. I
Oh,
call it
amazing.
Brave Breaths for kids who have big feelings and for the grown-ups who love them. And it's
Oh,
really short. There's 7 short modules. I've worked with kids for over a decade, so they're really
necessary.
fun and easy ways for kids to have tools to access their breath, because we're learning this as adults
Right.
now. Imagine
If we train them from the beginning,
exactly if
how
we had
brilliant.
access to these tools for regulation from an early age. I think that would just make the world of difference. It's such a gift to kids
Huge,
and
huge
parents,
difference.
because most of us are reparenting ourselves
Right,
as
right. We're learning as we go too.
exactly as we raise our
Don't tell
children.
all the
So
kids that though.
having access to those tools yourself is
Uh-huh.
is a great thing. So there's that program on my website, as well as I have multimodality programs for burnout, for people who are just going all the time and existing in this high state of stress
Yeah.
without having a break. So but my Presence Under Pressure program is the one I'm really excited
That's
to
the
share
one
at
in
the
May?
moment. That's the one that starts
Okay.
in May. We'll be running it almost consecutively throughout the year, every 8 weeks.
Okay, great.
And we're seeing, I'm loving the process of going through it with the people who are currently enrolled and hearing the feedback and the impact that it's having on their lives, even
Right.
just in these early weeks. So I'm really excited about the development of that program and what it can bring to so many professionals,
Right.
mainly, but also people who just want to be able to show up in those
Right.
moments where adrenaline really
Right.
hits and you're not able to access that best
Right.
version of yourself.
So if you missed the May program, there's going to be programs throughout the summer and the fall and everything that you can. And all of
Yes.
this is on your website.
It's all on my website, engagebreathwork.com.
Okay.
We also have one more program, which is just launched this week, which I'm excited
Yay,
about.
tell me.
So for those who really want to deep dive into their breath practice and understand a bit more about the science and what's happening in the body,
Mm-hmm.
but don't necessarily want to train to become a
For
breath
professional,
guide
yeah,
or
yeah.
be a facilitator. So just for your own practice and understanding what's happening and having access to all those tools on demand, we have a new program called Breath Fundamentals.
Oh, I love
Which
that.
I'm very
Okay,
excited
so the breath fundamentals, the one that Wednesday evenings that runs every 8 weeks. I forget the
Presence
name of
Under
that.
Pressure,
But the one with the children,
Brave Breaths,
and there, what was the fourth one?
Burnout, Recovery, and
Burnout
Reset.
recovery. Everybody can use that.
Yeah.
I love that. And reset. Okay, so all that's
It
on
feels
your
like
website.
I've thrown a lot at you right now.
I
but
love it all. I love all. I think this has been an incredible episode. I think it's so necessary. It's educational. It's informational. It's fun. I've had such a good time with you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Before I let you go, I do one thing with my guests. It's called Quickie Questions. Are you game?
I'm game. I'm
Okay, I
always
love
game.
it. I know you're game because we had the
I love
best
a
dance
quickie.
session before. Yeah, I love it. I love a quickie. All right. Who or what inspires you?
I would have to say my children. I know that sounds like such a cliche
No.
answer, but I think that we learn from more from them than I could ever teach
Yeah.
them. You know, many students over the years, but predominantly my children, who teach me every day how to show up authentically and with so much courage and
Strength and fortitude.
strength and resilience, and also just this real sense of morality.
Yeah.
Their values are really
It's amazing.
very
That
powerful.
stems from you, though. It's
Aw.
cyclical, I think. I think we learn a lot from our children, but I think you instill that in your children so they have the ability to teach you.
Yes, I don't think I can take that much credit for it, but at the same time, I like to think that I let them discover who they are
Yeah.
without forcing them to be someone
Yeah.
they're not, and that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, you should be. That's amazing. Okay, first thing you do in the morning.
I make juice, and then
I love that.
and then I go usually and I sit. I have a little space in my office where I have some Palo Santo and a singing bowl, and I have my affirmations. And I don't always get time because I like to sleep as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
But I try and make space for 5 or 10 minutes to just sit and breathe and take space for myself before I wake the kids.
What kind of juices?
I use celery juice
Yeah, that's
every
great.
morning.
Oh, that's so good for your body. Okay, what do you want to get better at?
Learning Learning. I think that's the real resilience. If you can find enough humility to let yourself be in a learning mindset all the time
Yeah.
and not reach that point where you're like, I know my stuff now. There's always more to know. And I really
100%.
enjoyed that process of opening myself up to so much learning, so much new knowledge. And the more, it's true. I mean, I don't remember who said that, but the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that, but it's not an easy thing to do
No,
as an
it's
adult.
continued growth though, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one. What makes you smile?
Life.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
now that I said that out loud, that sounds really cheesy,
No,
but
not at
there's so
all.
much to
There's
smile about.
so much to smile about,
Yeah.
so much joy. I think we have to actively look for it sometimes because there's a lot we're inundated with, but I think, yeah, it's there.
is.
It exists.
You cultivate what you think of.
Mm-hmm.
So finding those moments
Yeah.
and practicing finding the joy, I
Right.
think is
And
really
appreciating
beautiful.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
you so
I'm
much
so
for
grateful
having
that
me.
you were here today.
Yes, me
This
too.
was wonderful.
This
Okay,
was
we're
a
going to
wonderful
talk after.
opportunity. Thank you so much for having me.
No, my pleasure. To our listeners, thank you so much. So grateful you're here. Keep listening, keep learning, keep laughing, keep up with Beek on Being. Follow Beek on Being on Instagram for the latest. To share thoughts, ideas, suggestions, or nominate a guest, DM us. Want exclusive content, behind the scenes stories, and listener links? Subscribe. Listen to Beek on Being wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes are automatically transcribed. Big shout out and a huge thank you to Stephen Chen. Woohoo! At Penthouse Studios. Beek on Being was recorded at Penthouse Studios and is a proud member of the Penthouse Podcast Network.